everyone, and welcome to a body talk session that we're going to do actually for a group of people. So this particular session is for the Body Talk group in Regina, and we're going to demonstrate first range of motion on our lovely model, Ashley Newton, pardon me, and then I'll make her the actual matrix and we'll show range of motion again. So you'll see the difference between her and the group, and you'll actually be able to demonstrate that physically. Then we'll do the session, and I'll show range of motion differences for both the group and for her as well. Okay, so let's begin with Ashley's range of motion. Okay, so end range of motion is that first sign of tension, and this is the end range of motion. This is that first sign of tension that I'm feeling right here. So that's limited. And same thing there as well. Okay, so now we're going to turn her into the matrix. So I've got the words Regina matrix written down. I'll place that onto her navel. And let's take a look and see what the differences are now that she's no longer Ashley, but she's representing the Regina Body Talk matrix. Okay, so she's actually even better as the matrix than she is as the person, so that's pretty interesting. Okay, and the leg feels entirely different. It feels much lighter, so there's a pretty significant difference there. Okay, having said that there's a change between her and the matrix, normal range of motion is actually straight up to 90 degrees, so there's still significant limitations across the board. So let's do a body talk session and let's see what happens. Okay. So let's begin by focusing on your breathing, taking some slow, deep inhales and exhales. Every breath is an opportunity to release and let go. And feel yourself sink even deeper into the cushion below. And if you're listening to this from home as part of the Regina Matrix, I'm going to invite you now to, as you're connecting to your own breathing, tapping out your own cortices. So we're actually going to start at the pericardium, which surrounds the heart. So it's the external lining of the heart, and its job is primarily heart protection. Now there's an emotional release work that we need to do here of sadness. It's a bit congested. So we're going to use that body talk technique. We're going to do the advanced bodygenics, which you learn in free fall, and we're going to take the sadness straight out. And we're going to tap that out right now. So I'm going to get Ashley to imagine that she can sense sadness underneath my hand. Give it a color, first color that comes to mind.
White.
And breathe into that, make it thick and dense and easy to move, something like toothpaste, mud, or jello. Breathe it together into a ball and notice how much there is. Is it like a golf ball, a volleyball, a beach ball, a different shape or size? That big? Okay. So just imagine now that you can breathe into this, loosening it up with your edges, with your breath, and feel it begin to come with my hands. So she says it feels way better. So any white remaining there? A little bit there. So feel any bits that are hiding out now and feel it come with my hands. just notice the difference in how that feels.
So much lighter and clearer.
Okay, so she says it feels a lot lighter and a lot clearer. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is, now that this pericardium has been loosened up, we're going to hydrate the heart. And your heart is the representation for areas of safety, of trust, of acceptance, and of relationships. So when we're addressing the hydration, which represents taking in joy, specifically for the heart, we're finding the joy in all of those areas. And as body talkers, it's especially important to have this nice and wide open, because people will feel the difference between a closed heart and an open heart. They won't even necessarily know why, but they'll be able to consciously or unconsciously connect to you in a way that's going to be more meaningful if that heart energy is wide open. This is why that we recommend students that are so involved with Body Talk at some point go on to take Free Fall, because it's one of the most powerful heart opening seminars we have. Okay, we're going to link that into the navel, which is our sense of connection. This feels to me a little bit blocked, like there's just some resistances in connecting to all those successes, all those clients, all those, whatever the passion is, however you'd like to grow and develop your business, it feels like there's that block in connection to that growth. So we're going to link it into the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which gives awareness. Now, this is like the heart of your brain, so it's a pretty important area, and we want to make sure that this communication between the prefrontal cortex and actually the rest of the body is nice and clear to help that integration. At the same time, we're going to link in the pelvis to the heart. So the pelvis is our center for vitality and sexuality. It's the energy that also allows us to heal. And we need that to connect to the harmony center for relationships to build. And we're going to bring in what's called the 7th house in astrology, which also represents relationships and interrelationships. And here we're going to increase Venus energy, which is the embodiment of the feminine, the embodiment of nurturing energy. And it's the embodiment of feeding that into the relationship energy. And we're going to reduce Mars, which has more of a divisive or dividing type of an energy. And it's also known as the warrior. So we're looking at reducing that need to fight, and we're going to do that via the immune system. So this is all linking into the immune system and reducing that need to be overreactive and continue to try to dig deep and push harder, and instead of finding that sense of ease and flow. Okay, and it's going to link into the amygdala of the brain, which is often responsible for our overreactions in life. Okay, so we're going to do the classic cellular repair technique here that you learn in Body Talk Fundamentals. And basically this is restoring cells back to their full potential of health. Okay, and then we're going to link into governing vessel 20. It's an acupuncture point that sits on the crown of the head, right about in the middle of the crown chakra area. And its job is to control our habit patterns. It's interestingly enough stored in the governing vessel meridian, which rules our primary masculine. So here we're looking at any of those sort of masculine drives, whether that be in setting up business or making sure that you're safe and protected, getting your needs met. And we're looking at any underlying habit patterns that are here. Okay, so what's coming on most strong is this need to get ahead, which isn't really so much of a need as it is a neediness. And underneath it is a fear of how will I thrive, how will I grow if I don't have to struggle to try to get ahead. Okay, so at the same time, we also need to look at another point on the governing vessel meridian, which is the first point. It's stored in the perineum, which is the space between either vagina or testes and anus. And it's the beginning, really. So it represents often our very foundations of where this all began. So we're actually going back into some active memories that are stored here in early childhood. And we're looking at all those times that we got rewarded, that we got encouraged, in fact, to try to get ahead. So whether that was to take our very first steps or to go to the bathroom by ourselves. All those general steps that we have to go through in childhood, we need to take a look at what is feeding that energy. And really there's a natural healthy sense at that time to get ahead, to learn how to develop and grow. But then it becomes a little bit skewed as we become adults. So we still try to use this to get our needs met, but it doesn't necessarily work in the same way, and now it's become unhealthy. It's actually become a way to sabotage or to cope. Okay, so we're going to link both of these into the thymus gland, which rules our defensive patterns. And we're going to link it into the metal element, which naturally carries this quality of surrender, which is our ability to release and let go. At the same time to all this, we're going to use diaphragm to intestines. Our diaphragm carries our control as well as our emotional processing, and our intestines helps us to let go of all our crap that we don't need to hang on to anymore. Okay, now at the same time as all of that, or in parallel, we're going to link it into the central energy channel where the nervous system energy runs. We call it the Sushumna in Chinese medicine. And there's a specific pattern of energy that runs here. So if we were to look at the geometrical shape of that, it would be called a torus or a toroidal field. So we need to reestablish that. That toroidal field isn't as solid as it could be. What I'm sensing is the sense of separation between the Sushumna and its energy fields all on its own. So we're going to reestablish that. And we're going to end that separation. We're going to link it into separation consciousness on our general consciousness bubble, which you learned in Module 3, which is also a very fantastic heart-opening seminar. And then we're going to link that into what's called individuation. This is also in a way to surrender, the release, the letting go. It's the peeling back of the false self that's no longer serving you. Okay, and we're going to tap here. So taking some slow deep breaths. So still a priority, no. Further body talk, yes. Okay, so in Mindscape I'm getting this imagery of elbows, which is not something I usually see, but it's just the elbows all on their own. So the elbows represent flexibility, and because they're coming in all on their own, it's carrying a consciousness that it doesn't need to have of isolation. So sometimes that feeling like we're up against us and everybody else, or us and the world, or we just feel like we're an island unto ourselves. Or perhaps it's that sense of isolation because others in our friends or our family circle can't always relate to what it is we're going through and what it is we're working with and what it is we do. So isolation on any level, we're going to link that into the solar plexus chakra, which is our center for personal power. And that's going to link into the small intestine, which actually happens to, as a meridian, rule the elbow. And then we need to balance that with the heart energy. So small intestine runs on the outside of the elbow, heart on the inside. So in balancing the relationship between small intestine and heart, we're balancing this sense of feeling supported for the elbow and for that sense of isolation. So that sense of true support comes from inside. Okay, this is linking into the Spleen Meridian. Now this is carrying those worries. And it's actually not the ones that you're already conscious of, it's the ones behind the scenes. It's the subconscious worries that are creating this sense of energy that you don't even know where it's coming from, but there's this anxiety that seems to come out of nowhere that just doesn't make sense. Or perhaps it's showing up in some way that there's some limitation that you can't seem to get past and you have no idea why. So we're going to link that into the reproductive system, which carries our vitality, it carries our sexual energy, which allows us to move past those blockages very strongly and very easily. Except that it's not getting quite the same fuel that it needs. So we're going to reestablish the reproductive energy into the lower dantian, the kidneys, the Mingmen, the adrenals. All of those are energy centers that we need to reestablish. We're going to do that through the bladder 23 acupuncture points on the side of the spine, as well as through governing vessel 4 on the back body. So the Mingmen is like the channel or the gates that allow for energy to enter through and to support our vitality. The lower dantian keeps that pool of vitality to help fuel us. So we need to make sure that all these energy centers of receiving the support from our environment can actually be felt by the vitality of the reproductive system. And then we're going to link that into the entire nervous system. And we're going to tap here. Okay. So that says that it's end of session. Homework is to continue to use cortices to support yourself, as well as the access routine. Okay, and it's also coming up as to engage consciously in a self-care regimen. So I'm famous for saying that there's no way this work can be sustainable unless you self-care, self-love. So that means connecting to something that's going to continue to nurture yourself. And that something is going to change. So those routines can sometimes be the deadliest thing that we fall into. We might start something thinking that it's nurturing us, but if we keep sticking to that same routine, then we're not honoring the fact that our body, mind, souls are very dynamic systems-based concepts, and that is an actual physicality as well. So we need to self-care in a way that's dynamic. So that means it's a little harder because you have to check in daily with yourself and go, what is it I need today? So that's the homework. Spending 5 minutes to consciously cultivate, what is it I need to support myself today? And then engaging that action to support that. Okay? If there's any questions on that, just let me know. I'm happy to help out. Okay, so that is our session for today. And now let's take a look at that range of motion with Ashley as the Regina matrix surrogate, and we'll see where things are at. So that's a bit of a shift. That's quite a bit of a change. Before I was closer to there. Okay. And there's a bit of a change there. And I can also feel that the low back is just getting used to some of those new movements. And I think you'll begin to see, if we were to testing her range of motion in about 24 hours or so, you'll see a significant change there. Our low back often carries our fear of money and being able to meet our goals, which certainly doesn't work well if we're facing some of the issues that we've faced here in the session that we've addressed. So it'd be really interesting to check it out in about 24 hours or so. For now, let's see where Ashley's at. So we're going to take the Regina matrix sticky off. And we're going to retest Ashley as just Ashley. Now we'll likely see some changes in her because she is such an integral part of this matrix, just as you all are. Okay. So that's a pretty significant shift. That's over double where she was. And that might even be better than the Regina matrix. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, queries, please do let me know. And I think this is a really fascinating way to work with body talk. So do know that body talk can apply to more than just an individual. It can apply to a business, a group, which could include a family, or any sort of a matrix where there's an energy that's gathered. So it's one of my favorite ways to work, and I look forward to sharing more with you down the road. Thanks so much. Bye for now.